M5 has always been like, growing up as a bit of a troubled kid, a bit of an outcast. We all went through our struggles. But yeah, the M5 was always in my brain as my rock, you know, my God almost, my hero. So whenever I was in trouble or something like that, I'd always think, yeah, but hang on, you haven't driven an M5 yet, or just something about the M5. It's weird, I know. We all had something, I'm sure you had something as well, but the M5 was always my thing. I remember in high school, the E39 came out, manual, V8, 6-speed, and now this new one. Like, it's not my favorite M5, but it's still an M5. For example, it's a hybrid V8 now. It's got over 700 horsepower, twin turbo V8, 430 kilowatts alone, and then combined 535 kilowatts. It's all-wheel drive, but someone at BMW M, or a team of people, said, hang on, this is four-wheel drive, but there probably should be a way we can convert that to rear-wheel drive. I want to meet that person and give him a beer, because that's what I like, you know, and that's what made me feel like I belong, or that there's people out there that build the sort of stuff that I like. And the other day, when I picked it up actually, I was driving along and this guy was hanging out of his passenger seat, hanging out of a passenger seat. There's obviously another driver in the car. And he was just looking at the M5, which was perfectly sort of just sitting behind him. And he was just looking at it and smiling and talking to his mate, and then he took a few photos, but then he just kept looking at it. So I gave it a bit of a thrashing past him just to, yeah, celebrate the passion, you know. And I don't think many cars can do that or have that sort of energy about them. The M5 has always had that. The previous generations, there was a V10, naturally aspirated V10. Who was the guy that thought, you know what, let's get a luxury sedan with all of the latest and greatest stuff that a luxury sedan had at its time, and put a naturally aspirated V10 in it, rear-wheel drive. Like, it's like nuts, or it's just something that that you dream of, but you'd never think it would actually happen. And it's the same with this. The bean counters at BMW would have had to approve this. They would have said, well, what's 700 horsepower and you can convert it to rear-wheel drive? All right, let's sign it off. Let's put it on the market. Like, I love that. It's so cool. Not many car makers do that. Okay, we can probably have a closer look now. It's cooled down a bit. The brakes were ticking and the engine fan and all that were going. Just giving it a bit of a thrashing. But yeah, you look at this and you wouldn't expect it to be able to spin its tires all the way up the road in third gear, for example, but it can. And that's what I love about the M5. It's a hardcore driver's car wrapped up in the latest luxury. Just quickly on the design, check out the horizontal cooler down there. I don't know what it is, maybe a transmission cooler or something. A bit like a racing car, but yeah, lots of openings and all that sort of thing. Fully functional, nothing here is fake. And yeah, it does carry through BMW M5 tradition in that it kind of looks like a 5 Series. You just need to look a bit closer for the telltale signs. For example, it's got bolstered wheel arches. They hold these massive 21-inch alloy wheels. I love these wheels too, by the way. They're like something from a 1980s rally car, or even like a Lancia Integrale or something like that. They just look awesome, and they stand out, but not over the top. Then you've got carbon fiber side mirrors in the M design, so it's got the two struts there that the top one doesn't actually connect, and then a full carbon fiber roof. Around to the back, you've got BMW's latest trend where it puts its name on the C-pillar there. Got a nice lip spoiler, carbon fiber, and a very chunky diffuser at the back with the trademark quad outlet exhausts. I'm not a huge fan of these reflectors that sort of stick out. I'd rather that be an active vent that perhaps could exhaust air from within the wheel arch during compression or something like that, like a racing car. But instead it's got these reflectors. That might be part of regulations in certain markets where they've got to have reflectors there. But overall, in terms of BMW's modern design, I think it's probably one of the best. Like, it definitely has a muscularity to it. It definitely stands out, but it's not over the top, and it doesn't have the big awkward grills, although they are too big in my opinion, especially as most of it isn't actually functional. You've got the driving safety sensors in the front there and just little intakes on the side. So what's all this stuff doing? It's not really serving any purpose other than design. So here's my conclusion. And now this is almost entirely my opinion, but I think a lot of it is correct, or it stems from a true story kind of thing. BMW, and you could apply this to other models as well, new models. BMW has basically been forced to make sure that this M5 is either hybrid or fully electric. So they've made this a hybrid, and in turn it's heavier and a little bit slower than the predecessor, in terms of 0 to 100 anyway. This does a claimed 0 to 100 sprint in 3.5 seconds. The previous model was 3.4, or was it 3.3? I think it was 3.4, but anyway, it's a little bit slower. And it doesn't really matter which way you look at that. Evolution, you kind of should be a little bit quicker, shouldn't you? But BMW M cars have never been about 0 to 100 sort of as a focus, but even so, I think it should be a little bit quicker. Part of that is due to the weight. This weighs 2.4 tons, or roughly. You can't really feel it on the road, except in very specific scenarios and circumstances. Like driving down this winding road, the only time I kind of felt or was aware that it was heavy was during very heavy braking and when you're sort of tipping it into the corner. The thing is though, it can control it. It doesn't seem to negatively impact the handling or driving experience at all. It's just that you're aware that it's heavy. In every other situation, it feels like an M5, like it's very engaging. It feels like it wants to be in corners, it wants to turn corners, and it wants to go fast. It doesn't sound very loud. Again, that's probably due to emissions rules and all that sort of thing. It sounds very beefy from behind the wheel though. Just from the tailpipes, it's probably not as crisp, or it's not as crisp as a E39 or an E60 V10, for example. So it is an M5, it feels like an M5, but it's probably not the one that I was dreaming about as a kid. This is 2025 now. It has to conform and adapt to new market trends, to government regulations. So if you look at the lineage of the M5, it went from naturally aspirated manual, again naturally aspirated manual with a V8, and then a naturally aspirated V10, and then a twin turbo V8, and then a twin turbo V8 four-wheel drive, but with convert it to rear-wheel drive capability. Now, twin turbo V8 still, switchable four-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive still, but with hybrid power. So it's more powerful than any other M5, although it's not quicker in terms of 0 to 100. I'm guessing it's quicker across 100 to 200, or 0 to 300, or the quarter mile, or pretty much any other metric really. It's just specifically 0 to 100. It can't get off the line as quick as the previous gen model, just. But we'll test that out soon with the performance test and see what it can actually do in the real world. I'll charge the battery right up as well so we get maximum capability. But on the other hand, this has an additional capability. You can drive this on electric power alone. I probably wouldn't do that if I owned this, but there's the capability there. And in some cities, you have to have an electric car before you can drive into the city. So this allows it to do that. The range is around 67 kilometers, depending on if you look at the NEDC or WLTP cycle. I think it's only 1 kilometer difference, which is enough to get you to work and back probably. As a bonus though, that electric motor system provides like an anti-lag system for the engine. So it helps build up that initial speed, although not across 0 to 100. It helps pull you around the corners, and you've basically got no lag whatsoever. I love that also you can switch it to rear-wheel drive, but you might think, oh, hang on, if you switch to rear-wheel drive, does that mean you only get 430 kilowatts from the petrol engine? No, someone at BMW M would have said, well, we can't just have the V8 going to the rear wheels, we need to have all 700 horsepower going to the rear wheels. Like, that was a conversation that was had in German, obviously, but someone said, no, we need all the 700 horsepower going to the rear wheels. And that's awesome. Like, I love that. Having a look inside, it's obviously full of technology. You've got this big twin screen thing running across the dash. That's not my cup of tea, but I understand that that's what market trends want, or I think that's what they want. I don't know if all BMW M5 buyers want something like that, but you've got to have that wow factor. You've got to stand out against the competition. So if you've got a 60 grand car that's got a massive screen, and then you turn up with your $260,000 M5, and they go, oh, how big is your screen? And you can't say anything, you can't say a big number, then it kind of makes it look bad. But yeah, it's too big, and it lights up at night time. I mean, you can turn the dimness down quite a bit. You've got all these lights around here as well, which you can turn off. It's just a bit fancy for what I know was the M5. You know, it was never about fanciness at all. It was more about the driving engagement as well as luxury. And I guess the fanciness here is 2025 luxury. You know, it's just a different sort of personality or character than what it used to be. You got wireless phone charging, and you got BMW's iDrive system there. Look at all the different settings you can play around with for the drive setup. You've got hybrid recovery, steering and even brake feel, and then there's your two-wheel drive mode, the M sound for the exhaust. You've also got a configuration for the hybrid system. You've got dynamic plus, and then fully electric and all that sort of thing. So there's definitely lots of adjustments and things you can play around with, which is kind of in line with what an M5 has been about. It's just, this is the latest technology, so it's going to have more. I just started up. It's got this weird sort of Star Wars sound. And you've got the M1 and M2 programmable drive modes. I hate the way when you take your foot off the brake, it turns off. Like, that's an electric car type of thing. I've got the M1 programmed to be hybrid. So it starts the engine, and the engine's running all the time. It charges the battery, but it does eat into the fuel consumption a little bit. But I'll run that before I do the performance test as well to get the battery level right up. As you can see, we've got about 3/4 of the battery level there. And in terms of fuel economy, it was averaging, I was not going to say, it was averaging about 10 litres per 100 in the hybrid mode with some thrashing around, which is pretty good. I remember the last M5 that I drove was the F12, I think they called it, or the F10, I can't remember the code names now, but it was like the first of the twin turbo V8s. And I was getting around 10.5 litres per 100 in the real world driving that thing around. It was just amazing. I think it is anyway, considering the performance it offers. So this is kind of like that. You can get amazing economy for its performance. Remember, this has over 700 horsepower. So look at any other car with 700 horsepower, apart from electric ones, they're going to chew a fair bit of fuel no matter what. I think this has got the capability to be quite practical every day. The driving position and the sort of surroundings here are perfect. Like, this is an M5, I can feel it, it's luxurious. The seats are awesome, they hold you in. Every detail is covered in either leather or some sort of soft touch material, including right down on the bottom of the doors here. It just, yeah, it feels like an M5 should, and it looks like an M5 should. It's just a little bit fancy, but as I said, fanciness is probably the 2025 version of luxury. You've even got little blinds that pop out on this side quarter window and the main window. And then plenty of room in the back. This is a large sedan after all, so it's got to have accommodation for 5 adults, or at least 4 in absolute comfort. And there's plenty of comfort in the back here. Like, I've got heaps of leg room in my seating position, more than enough headroom. Like, my head's nowhere near the ceiling there. Even the ceiling is covered in this kind of Alcantara trim. Nice little lights you can turn on and off. Yeah, there's just enough quality touches in here to make it feel like an M5, and it does. It does feel like an M5. You've got the massive seats, so they do take up a bit of your vision. Again, that's an M5 thing. And down below, full climate control and some charging ports. And then up at the back, electronic boot lid. And then you've got charging cables, which is a first for an M5. But yeah, plenty of room. You could easily fit a couple of golf bags in there, and you can actually pop down the rear seats so you can poke things through the middle, and it's quite a big aperture there before you run into the big struts or the bulkhead of the suspension and chassis. All right, let's go for a drive. I'm keen to show you how it goes. I'll do my best. I mean, ideally you'd like to test this on a track or somewhere like the Nürburgring, where you can really open up and go through those gears with that massive 700 horsepower. But down this winding road, it's quite tight. I like it because it's got some bumps and ripples, and it is very tight. It's very demanding on the driver and the car. So if the car's able to handle it, or it's easy to drive and you've got confidence, then I know it's a decent handling vehicle for its class. To start with, let's just get stuck into the two-wheel drive mode. I do have the chassis set up in comfort. It's all pre-programmed into the M2 button. You can put it in Sport or Sport Plus, but I find on this road, comfort is fine. Like, it's still very, you know, sporty and firm. definite wheel spin into second gear, but it's still propelling me forward. Like 295s on the back, they've got plenty of grip and there's still lots of acceleration to be had, even if it is spinning a little bit. And you can obviously drift it very easily. You only need to give it just a slight bit of power to get the back wheels spinning during a corner. I'm talking, if you're just in a straight line, you can actually feed in a lot of power even in rear wheel drive. But in a corner, the rear differential just hooks up straight away and it knows what you're up to. Good front end bites down this tight twisty section. It doesn't feel like 2.4 tons, no way. Like I can actually start to provoke some oversteer to correct it if it was understeering, but it's not anyway. Yeah, excellent response. And sprinting between the corners with massive G-force. Yeah, this is definitely an M5. Sorry about this seat, by the way, it's squeaking a little bit. They do know about it, they're gonna just fix it. It's just an isolated problem with this, well, not a problem, but just a little, yeah, issue with this seat in particular. Maybe it was damaged or something. Yeah, it actually chirps into third gear. Because of that, I'm guessing electric motor providing that instant assistance, that you don't have to wait for the engine to rev before you get a decent shove of torque from the electric motor. In comfort mode though, through this bumpy section, it's very stable and very planted. I think we can try out the Sport Plus mode. I'll just show you. So that's now in Sport Plus. Yeah, it's actually still quite fine. It's not bone jarring. I think the rear wheels would spin just a little bit more in the Sport Plus setting. Look at that squeaking and squirming up the road in third gear. Because it's more rigid at the back, it means it's not going to sink down as much. And you just, yeah, might get a little bit more wheel spin, but it's actually soaking up these bumps quite well. You only need to apply full throttle. I mean, you can only apply full throttle for short moments on a road like this because it just picks up so much speed so quickly. Yeah, that's massive acceleration. And it sounds good from inside the car. You've got this deep bellowing pop and bang and a thud during the upshifts. It's exciting, like it seems like a rumbling V8, like it's kind of old school in its character. Yeah, like even then, it's third gear, that pulled so hard, that was about half throttle. It didn't just spin away the power, even though it's in the two-wheel drive mode. Insane stuff. That's 700 horsepower going to two wheels. Okay, for the way back down, we'll try four-wheel drive Sport and just see how that handles. It's going to give us more traction, obviously, but it's rear biased, I've read, so it still should allow me to manipulate the direction using the rear end. Yeah, even then it just started spinning a little bit, so it's still definitely very playful. It's just got that extra assurance of power going to the front wheels as well. I've still got it in the Sport Plus suspension mode, by the way, and it's actually handling quite well. I mean, obviously it's handling well. I mean, it's not throwing me all over the place. It's catching the bumps. As I've said before, I think BMW in recent times has changed its suspension philosophy. It's no longer super rigid. Like, obviously this is on a pretty ordinary road, but yeah, it's not bouncing me around like previous generation M models. Does that mean it's going to be softer on the track? I don't think so. They've got better technology these days where it can be more adaptable. It's got a wider range of capabilities. Look at that acceleration between the corners, it's nuts. Bouncing off the rear limiter, it's just crazy, this thing. That's in four-wheel drive and it's spinning like that. That is so good. It's making me almost cry. Oh man, I love this thing. Yeah, I can't talk. It's just so good. Like, it's just doing what I want and more. Like, I can't believe. Oh, I just need to stop for a second. The low-end torque is just so nuts. Like, you come around the corner like those back there and you go, I'll just give it a little bit of power just to adjust a little bit. It's like, yeah, no worries, let's go. You know, like, it just is such a driver's sedan. Look at that, spinning in second gear in four-wheel drive mode. I mean, the front wheels probably weren't spinning, but I love the way that it lets out some playfulness, even in four-wheel drive mode. Again, sliding in four-wheel drive mode. That is superb. Oh man, this is exactly what I want from an M5. This is what I envisioned as a boy in school, skipping class, daydreaming in the park with an old Wheels magazine. You know, this is what I imagined an M5 would be like. It's still very versatile, even in four-wheel drive mode. Like, it knows what I'm thinking. That's what I love about it. It really does know what I'm thinking. And the acceleration is just immense. Like, I can't wait to see what this does across the quarter mile and all that. I don't know if it will meet the 3.5 second claim. Who knows? BMW usually underestimate their 0 to 100 times anyway. But even so, the in-gear acceleration and just the absolute ferociousness of it is immense. Like, it's like meditating almost. Like, it just takes over your brain power. You're not thinking of anything else but driving and listening to that engine and just, yeah, getting immersed in all of its controls. Let's go out now and do the performance test.